Happy Thursday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. And yeah, if you can notice, there's no junk behind me. So I'm in a hotel room. I am up here in beautiful Madison, Wisconsin for a work training. So been here since Tuesday and have one more day. So tomorrow I will be have a half day and I'll be driving back. And if you're wondering why we started a little bit late, one, I recorded an episode of You Gotta Be Shot in me due to Friday Shot in happening this week. So recorded an episode with Matt just before this. So that is being downloaded and uploaded. So hopefully that'll be available sometime tonight or tomorrow morning. And second, I didn't bring any bourbon with me. So I had to walk down to the hotel bar and I got myself a double pour. Because it's Wisconsin, of course, the hotel bar had a barrel pick of a bourbon they do. And obviously we are on the wrong lead, handicapping, wagering, and bourbon. So I went with the barrel pick. I had some of it last night, and it was pretty good. It's a Driftless Glen single barrel, which I'd never had Driftless Glen. I actually texted my good friend, Ed DeRosa. Was talking to him a little bit about Driftless Glen and what he thought about it. But yeah, it's very solid, and I probably drank them. I mean, the bottle was 3/4 full, and I don't know if anyone else was drinking it, but that bottle was empty when he gave me this double pour. So good enough for that. But bring in Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, you've just had a heck of a couple of weeks with moving and getting used to actually having to go into the office for work again.
Oh, it's the worst.
Or actually just having to work, period, since you were doing school stuff. Not that wasn't work, right? But it's a different kind of thing, right? It's a different kind of situation. Yeah. But how you settling in, my friend?
Oh, we're hanging in there. It has been definitely a busy couple of weeks. I mean, shoot, honestly, it's almost October. It's been a busy couple of months, which is crazy to think we're weeks from Keeneland and a shade over a month from Breeders' Cup. I mean, it feels like we just were at Saratoga not long ago. So, yeah, doing well. Like I said, been busy settling in here in Denver, house hunting, getting all tuned up at the new job and getting up to speed. But overall, things are finally looking up and doing pretty good.
Nice. You've been betting at all?
Rarely, like basically maybe like one day a week, like a Saturday maybe. Haven't looked at anything this week at all, but I will probably, glancing at both Aqueduct and Santa Anita, the cards are pretty good, especially Santa Anita's card. So I probably will jump into some stuff on Saturday.
More importantly, have you found a bourbon store yet?
I found one, but I was quite disappointed. So I went onto Reddit and I found another recommendation. I think it was called Argonauts or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone in the comments knows Denver bourbon stores, send them my way. But otherwise, I'll go back to Reddit and try some of the next ones.
And a man who's just notorious for just being all over Reddit, Mr. Mark Capitan.
All over Reddit, really?
I don't know. I mean, you're a Reddit admin, technically, right?
No, I am not a Reddit admin. I am a Discord admin. I am not a Reddit admin.
Interesting. Oh, you know who is Gary, isn't it?
Gary and Raider Dave and a couple of others that are regulars, but I never got sucked into being an admin thing, so I'm not on Reddit enough to to really make a big deal. So just casually, occasionally.
Yeah. Well, how you been, my friend?
Been good. A lot of traveling. Was out Caleb's way last weekend, but didn't get to see Caleb. I was in Denver, then we drove up to Vail for a team building corporate event, and then flew home. And the next day, drove up to Burlington, Vermont, and watched some disc golf with my sister. Saw the Green Mountain Challenge, which was really fun to walk around and see that. And then here and yeah, like Caleb said, it feels like crazy. It feels like Saratoga was just a like like you blink and Saratoga goes by. But that nice little bit of downtime, and now we're back into Fall Aqueduct, which is always fun. Had a very nice day there today, and then Breeders' Cup is what, a month out, so getting excited for that trip. Hopefully, I'll be out there hanging out with everybody, and yeah, I've never been to Del Mar, so kind of excited if I can make it. If I can make the scheduling all work, it's a little bit of I'm planning on burning some PTO later in the year, so I just have to make sure that work's okay with me being a little creative with my schedule.
Yeah. I forgot I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you a question, and before we get into talking about the cards this weekend, how much did you guys watch of last week's racing?
0. I didn't watch a single race.
I think I did watch some stuff on Saturday, but I can't remember anything. Why?
So, like, how wrong did we get that pace scenario in the Pennsylvania Derby? Was that us, or was that just the jockeys? Like, what the hell happened there?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's the jockeys, and I always think it's the jockeys. So
Yeah.
I think too many people are afraid to use their horse's best weapon and to use that natural speed. I mean, Seize the Gray. I mean, all the credit in the world to Jaime Torres, who just gets out there with an aggressive ride, and just like he did in the Preakness. That horse. No disrespect, but the horse probably isn't as good as his record would indicate. But he's gotten some just extremely crafty rides. And really intimidated a lot of other jocks. I mean, Flo on Dragoon Guard and a few others to just try to take back. And, it pays to be forward in American dirt racing. It surprises me that so many jockeys don't seem to grasp that concept.
You can say it pays to be forward in American racing, period. I mean, there's a lot of horses. Zulu Alpha, I'll throw a random example out there. A horse that had no business winning a grade 1, let alone multiples of them. And he did because they just went to the front with him and used his natural speed to, dominate races. I think, I mean, obviously I played the memeiest of meme daily doubles that boomed Caleb, but I honestly I should be mocked mercilessly for what I played, but
It was awful.
yeah,
It
was terrible. It was
And
horrible.
you got the best result. Like, it's just
And I got
absolutely
absolutely, it worked out perfectly for me, and I'm still kind of chuckling at it that I simply played a double to meme on Caleb. But no, I mean, speed is deadly, and I think if whether it be Dornoch or whether it be Seize the Gray, both of them, I don't think are as good as their records necessarily state, but they're horses that have taken advantage of jockeys not wanting to be aggressive and not wanting to use their tactical speed, and they've just sort of tripped out because of it. And I think we see it happen quite a lot, and it's something. I know Josh loves to play E8s. Well, there's a reason you play E8s, because sometimes they steal races at dumb prices on the front end. Happens.
Yeah, and you're mentioning E8s, and man, looking at the first couple of races at Aqueduct that we're going to look at, I see some E8s I really like, or maybe not necessarily E8s, but pretty forward horses. So I'm going to pull up. We're going to start here with the Woodward Grade 2. We were talking a little bit before the stream how this race is kind of getting lost a little bit. I don't think we're at Curlin levels of lost, but yeah, it's just kind of in a weird spot right now. They drew 5 horse field, and the 5 horse K Army is actually scratching from this race. So you got 4 horses here. Skippy Longstocking at 4-5, and the Morning Line Croupier at 2-1. Tapit Trice at 5-2, and Masquerade at 10-1. Especially in these small fields, I think you get to the lead, and that's basically it. And I really see Skippy Longstocking just getting to the lead, getting it very, very easily. And I mean, I don't really see. I see them just kind of going around, and I just think Skippy Longstocking wires this, and it's not like this is not a great betting race, but I felt like we should talk about this because you know what's the future of this race? Like it seems like you were saying this, Mark. This race is kind of getting cannibalized by some of the later dirt races at Saratoga, and this getting moved to where it is right now, and people aren't racing here because if you're good enough to race in this, you're probably good enough to race in the Breeders' Cup Classic with the fields we've seen in the last couple of years. So why not just wait a month? And then obviously Keeneland is starting up soon. What's is it the Kentucky Jockey Club? There's another like Kentucky dirt race that usually draws a pretty good field right around here, and I can't remember off the top of my head the race, but um, I don't know. This race is kind of been left without an identity, and you get this 4-horse field. So I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I would really like to see him shake this up. I mean, obviously, this race used to be on the closing Saturday of the Saratoga meet. So on Labor Day Saturday, they decided to move the Jockey Club Gold Cup upstate and move this back to what it should be at Belmont, but obviously it's an Aqueduct with the renovations going on. And it's in no man's land, as you said. Trainers these days want 6 or more weeks rest for their big horses. Honestly, the older dirt male division is just not that deep, and everybody else is skipping races like this to point for the Breeders' Cup. So if you wanted to run in the Breeders' Cup, you ran in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and then you're waiting for the Breeders' Cup now. So they honestly, if they move this race back a couple of weeks, but it would be better. But then they'd be cannibalizing the Jockey Club Gold Cup for this race. So they're just in no man's land with it. The purse has diminished substantially over the years, and I don't know if it was ever a huge purse race, but it definitely hasn't kept up with some of the races like the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I think is $1 million race now, and you're seeing these $1.5 million Travers types races. So the purse really hasn't kept up. It lost its G1 status. I think it's a sign of North American racing just having too many graded stakes. Period. We definitely need to get rid of some of these. And if at this point, I love the Woodward, but at this point, if you're saying geez, races that kind of need to go off the graded stakes calendar, it's probably the Woodward. These are the kind of races that need to go away, that just fall in no man's land, aren't seeing the fields. This is everybody else, right? In this older division.
Yeah,
And
I think it's.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Mark. You done?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I think it's just a byproduct of a lot of our horses, our better dirt horses, don't really race into their 4, 5, 6-year-old season the way they used to. This race falls at a bad time in the calendar as focus ever increasingly shifts towards the Breeders' Cup races, and you'd much rather win at Saratoga or the Breeders' Cup. So it's a bad division that's already kind of starved of talent, and the best talent would typically rather go to the Whitney or the Jockey Club Gold Cup or train up into the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's just it's not worth it for enough of the horses that could actually run here, given other options, and there aren't really enough horses to run here that would live up to what the Woodward used to be.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Lucas Classic. I had the wrong race. Lucas Classic. I think
Isn't
it's
the Lucas at Churchill?
Yeah, it's a mile and 1/8, and then they run the Kentucky Jockey Club in November, which is I think after the Breeders' Cup.
Well, that's a 2-year-old race, isn't it? Or yeah, I think it's a 2-year-old race.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Yeah,
I think
you might be right,
Kentucky
yeah.
Jockey Club is yeah. But to your point, I think races like the Woodward and the Lucas, you need to combine those fields, right? Like if those two races were combined into one race, you'd have a very competitive, very nice field. It's just there's too many races given the current full crops and the fact that everybody wants to point for the Classic. So And to your point, Josh, I think Skippy kind of wins this for fun. He's controlling pace in here. I like horses like Croupi, and I like horses. I mean, I can even sort of squint really hard to make a case for Tapit Trice, but just given the pace
Absolutely
complexion,
not.
I okay. Just given this race, Skippy should just controlling pace should wire this field. It should be a pretty yeah. It just the race sucks.
Yeah, I have no interest in betting the race. My opinion, I think Croupi is a better horse than Skippy Longstocking, but I think in a 4-horse field that where Skippy is just clearly the only speed, I don't think Croupi's enough of a better horse to overcome that disadvantage. I think in a different setup, I would much rather have Croupi, but I do think that he's going to be up against it from a racing flow standpoint. It probably is one of those two. I can't really see Mask Parade or Tapit Trice, but not a very good betting race.
Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse, and I want to beat the allegations that a 4-horse field we spend 20 minutes talking about. So we'll move on, and we'll go to the Turf Classic, Grade 1, going a mile and a half. And allegations that I will not beat are that I just bet speed, because man, I looked at this race and Get Smoking, like. We want to talk about Naira specials. Get Smoking is not going to Naira special anything. I mean, he's going to get out there and he's going to go. Obviously, the Turf Cup this past year went pretty fast, got loose, and kind of, I don't know, like it seemed like he kind of got caught pretty quick and just kind of faded off that. And it seems like, as of late, he's kind of been doing a little bit of every other pattern. And so if you kind of cross a line through every other one of his races, you kind of see a different form here. I mean, even the Kentucky Downs preview was a good race, but he ran, I think he ran like 4th in that race. But, you kind of look at this pattern. I mean, so he should be sitting on a race here. I just don't see any other pace. Like, I just think he gets out there and he goes.
Doesn't Emmanuel keep him company though? I mean, I think Emmanuel has enough pace that I don't want to say he necessarily ends up on the lead, but I think Emmanuel at least keeps him doesn't let him get stupid loose on the front end, right?
I disagree with Time Form on this. I know they actually show Emmanuel, I think, actually on the lead in here, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
I don't see that at all. I mean, I get that he's maybe stretching out from like a mile to a mile and a half and maybe, has more, better raw pace figures because a lot of those races are naturally faster. I get that he adds blinkers, but this is a horse that really has never been successful when being sent to the front. And, I don't see it. I disagree with Time Form on this. I think he gets more of a stalking trip. What kind of, if he's good enough to win or not, it's a totally different conversation. But I'm with Josh in that I think that Get Smoking is probably a length or two clear out there by himself, the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only horse I think that, I think Silver Knot obviously has kind of, I don't know, this year has just kind of become a different horse. I feel like last year he was kind of the start of or he's one of the horses that we were talking about. Like, what's happening? What's up with Chucky Apples? He used to come over here and he used to win everything. Like, what's up with his horses? Like, they're not firing like they and of course, he still wins big races, right? Like, don't get me wrong. But, this was a horse we thought as soon as he came over and he stayed here was going to start dominating. And we didn't see that last year. Well, all of a sudden this year, I feel like we have a different story, right? Now the Sword Dancer, he finished 3rd there in his last race. Farbridge got the better of him, but I think he's getting a big jock upgrade, going from Flavian Pratt to the best jock in New York and Dylan Davis. No, but it's an interesting jock switch. But I mean, Dylan is riding lights out the last couple of months, so I don't hate it whatsoever. But I think Silver Knot is, you're talking about Emmanuel kind of being forwardly placed. I think Silver Knot is going to sit in second and kind of be right there up for it. And if Get Smoking packs it in, I think it just sets it up for Silver Knot. So those are the only two horses I was going to use in this race. But Caleb, since you kind of agree with me about Get Smoking, I'll let you go second.
I do like Get Smoking in here. I mean, that race at Kentucky Downs, I know you and I think half the chat was all in on Get Smoking. There was a ton of speed in that race. It set up the way I thought that it would, and he just melted down. I mean, so, whether it's in every other pattern, whether there's too much speed, whatever the cause, I'm back on the Get Smoking train. I'm with you. I have to ask, though, about Silver Knot. I mean, that last race really bothers me. And it's not so much that he lost to Farbridge, although that does very much bother me because I know what Farbridge is. Farbridge just had an extremely clever ride by Rosario, something I haven't said much in the past 2 years, that to go out there in a race with no speed, to slow it way down and just steal it. So I don't really care so much that he got wired. But, I mean, he got neck and neck with Farbridge and then faded, got dusted by his stablemate, and barely held off Pioneering Spirit. I mean, Pioneering Spirit, would be 15-1 in this race. So, I mean, are we really – that's a bad race. And maybe you just draw a line through it because his turn of foot was muted a little bit. But I have a hard time at 2-1 kind of going back after, seeing Silver Knot come up really quite that flat. So for me, I mean, I went to the other short price in the race. I do think Warlike Goddess is Writer Dave, friend of the show's favorite horse. And I keep waiting for her to fall off, and it just doesn't happen. I mean, she maybe doesn't have the dominance that she did previously. I mean, she has lost a little bit more this year than she has in past years, but it just seems like she's still really sharp. This is not the strongest grade 1 we've ever seen. And in the Flower Bowl, I mean, again, similar story as we saw in the Sword Dancer. The Flower Bowl was once again just absolutely crawling on the front end over a soggy turf course by a 20-1 Chad Brown Rabbit when no one decided to go. And I thought Warlike Goddess ran tons the best race to actually go from essentially last to second while being that much against the pace dynamics. She loves this trip. She loves Aqueduct. I think she is the most likely winner, but you're not getting a lot of value at 8-5. But between her and Silver Knot, I do prefer Warlike Goddess.
Yeah, I see this a lot the way that Caleb does. I think I prefer Warlike Goddess over Silver Knot. Just given the fact of her Flower Bowl was really, really, really impressive given the absolute garbage ride she got. And some of the stupidness that went on. I know we don't love to bash jocks, and it's not always the jock's fault, but oh my God, everybody else was asleep at the wheel in that race, and it was really bad. I think Warlike Goddess, much to what Caleb said, you expect her to fall off at some point. Really hasn't happened. This is the kind of trip she wants. She loves the Aqueduct circuit, albeit she kind of likes every circuit she runs across. For a horse that basically wins a little more than half her races, I don't have anything super creative in here to say. I think I like Get Smoking a little less than you guys do. That last race at Kentucky Downs was I don't know. Yes, showed a ton of speed early. I understand what Josh is getting at with him with a bit of an every other pattern there. I don't know. Maybe he can go to the front end and steal it. Honestly, I know we touched on Emmanuel really quickly. I don't think Emmanuel actually wants to go this far. I think his better races have been a little bit shorter. I think he'll end up taking a bunch of money because of that. But I really don't think this is the trip he wants. And then you have horses like Farbridge, who Farbridge won last out, but I think Farbridge is really, really exposed. I think there's enough pace. We've seen Warlike Goddess be able to fire into not having crazy amounts of pace. I mean, she almost got there in the last out race. So I really think it comes between Warlike Goddess and Silver Knot. And if you force me, I would take Warlike Goddess. I think she's just kind of the classier horse in here.
Yeah.
Nothing creative. Sorry.
I don't really like the horse, but how many times have we seen Mike Maker take a older horse, stretch him out going long on the turf, and just make them a totally different animal? I wouldn't be surprised if Emmanuel runs a big race, even though, everything you said, I agree with Mark. It's just one of those things. I would not be surprised, even though I don't think.
No, I wouldn't either. It wouldn't shock me at all. But the thing is, there's no way in the world you get 10-1 because everybody else who's sharp sees the same thing. We're saying, "Oh, Mike Maker takes a horse, stretches him out, going long on the turf, and suddenly the horse pops." I would expect you get more like 5-1 on Emmanuel, and I just don't think there's any value there. And I honestly don't think he wants to go this far.
I think it'll be longer than that, but it'll be, just because of, there are some, between Silver Knot, Farbridge, and Warlike Goddess, I do think there's some big hitters in here, plus, the IRAD factor. I mean, could see him getting overlooked, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll be 6-1, 8-1, 10-1, but yeah.
Yeah, if you would have had Farbridge going wire to wire in the Sword Dancer, can you please give me the lottery numbers for the next Powerball? Because
You should
that
have
was just
Farbridge puts Rosario up and from Jose and then decides to wire. Like there's yeah.
like you said a bunch of words that normally don't go in the order that you said them. You said
Not
Rosario.
normally. They
not
never
normally
Rosario
on the lead,
speed on the lead. Like yeah, it makes no
although,
sense.
like, I mean, I've said this a bunch. I think Rosario is actually great riding on the lead, but Rosario doesn't think he's great riding on the lead, so he like refuses to do it. Like I don't understand. But I digress. Let's go on to the Vosburg 7 furlong race here. I honestly had a tough time with this race. I kind of was looking through this, trying to figure out where I was going to kind of go. I don't know. I had a hard time. I saw Dean Delivers at 4-1 here, but I feel like he's kind of like the newer. I don't want to say the new shooter, but like they tried him out last year at Saratoga in the Vanderbilt, and he ran third to Elite Power and Gunite, and then he
By the way,
kind of
I've heard those two horses were kind of okay.
Yeah, they were very good.
They may have gone 1-2 at the Breeders' Cup or something. Yeah,
and then like he just kind of like fell off a cliff. Had a barn switch at the right after the Kentucky Derby time, and started running in Mid-Atlantic, and he just started beating up on people. I mean, winning by 8 lengths, winning by 2 lengths, and then just winning listed stakes after listed stakes. And now he's kind of coming up in class, or he's definitely coming up in class in here. But I don't know. I mean, you got a horse like Scotland, who was kind of an up and comer last year, and they finally cut him back. But it seems like he's kind of done his best running, kind of beating up on people, similar to Dean Delivers. Baby Yoda, I mean, he's run decently at Aqueduct. I still think he's a little bit of a horse for course at Saratoga. He obviously the True North this year is probably the best race anyone in here has run. But you just don't see him deliver that. I mean, if Baby Yoda runs his best race, he wins this race pretty convincingly. But seeing him run his best race, like you don't know when it's going to happen. And then you just see a kind of a bunch of other kind of, I don't know, listed stakes winners, Comedy Town for Staffy Joseph. So I don't know. I thought this was a tough race. I kind of thought that Dean Delivers had a shot here to kind of just kind of get on the lead and maybe go wire to wire here. But he hasn't done it against horses of this quality. But a lot of these other horses also haven't done it against horses of this quality. So I don't know. I had a hard time with this one. Mark, where did you kind of land?
Yeah, you mentioned Dean Delivers, and I just think he's a single in this race. He's your controlling speed. I get it that he's been beating up on the horses at the Delaware Laurel and Monmouths of the world, which I'm sure makes Caleb's skin crawl. But he's gonna go to the front end. He can handle 7 furlongs. Time form says that any of his last 3, basically 3 or 4, win this. Since the barn change, he's very much been a different horse. And again, I don't know if it's the barn change. I don't know if it's coming back. I don't know what it is. Becoming a 5-year-old, whatever it is. This is probably as far as he wants to go. If he had some pace pressure in this race, I would be more concerned with a 7 furlong trip, but I think he's fine as long as he can get loose, which on paper he should. I just think he kind of towers over this field, and I think there's a number of horses in here that are just pretty darn suspect. You have the horses like Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda does not want to go this far. He never has. You have horses like Scotland who just kind of hate winning. Scotland was this big, he's taken a massive step up in class, and I just don't really think he can do it. I don't know what's sort of changed, but I feel like I kind of know who Scotland is, and he's just way too slow to win this. And then you have somebody like Comedy Town who has kind of run his last three races have all sort of been the same race. I realize he's won all three of them, but I think this is much tougher company in here, and I just don't know if he's quite honestly fast enough. And Dean Delivers, is gonna get the first run, or is gonna be out in the front end. So I just really think the race goes through Dean Delivers, and I think if I'm playing a pick 4 or pick 5 in here, he's just kind of a single for me.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of like Dean Delivers, but seeing Mark single him means I can't use that horse, especially at 4-1. I mean, I would think you get better than 4-1, but this is not the strongest rendition of the Vosburg we've seen.
It's not.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not convinced Dean Delivers wants 7 furlongs. Yeah, if you want to talk about a class hike, I mean, he's really been beating up on a couple of the second graders over in Monmouth and Laurel. So at least now he's in, firm middle school territory. So I don't know. I mean, but I agree with Josh. I did not like this race. And, I just don't like the race because I feel like I'm not getting the prices on the horses that I feel like I have to use, but I hate everybody else. So, I mean, to me, I actually think I landed on, no, it's not the favorites actually, because I do not like Comedy Town. This race is full of horses that were, way off form or kind of washed, and then all of a sudden are rediscovering, peak form at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. I mean, you look at Dean Delivers, you look at Comedy Town. I mean, he was a turf sprinter for most of his career. You had the one-hit wonder, Lord Miles. Where's our Andrew Champagne clip? But just none of these horses I can really feel confident about using. So to me, I just wanted the horses that I feel like have some upside. And to me, that starts with the number 6, Mufasa. I'm not sure what he was really beating at Colonial, but he did beat Repo Rocks, who at one point would have been a really monster, hard to handle horse in this kind of a race. He seems like he's lost a bit of a step, compared to what he was when he was at his peak, but he's still a very nice horse. And Mufasa dispatched him pretty easily. He gets this distance here. Everybody knew Mufasa was live when Jose took the mount, and he went off at 6-5 on the back of a not super impressive debut at Churchill. So he's one that I feel like does have some upside in here, considering he's only making his 3rd start in America. And the other one I, went to actually was Scotland. He probably does need to run a little bit faster to win, but I mean, at least he is a 4-year-old in this field that, he's got 4 wins from 10 starts. He's got, 2 of his 4 wins at 7 furlongs. It just, if you throw out some of those route races where he was in way over his head in the Travers and Pennsylvania Derby and the sloppy races, I mean, the form does look a little bit better. I'm not really sure, he's a monster, but I feel like he's the horse that's been inching along the right direction for a long enough time that, maybe he finally just found, a graded stakes race that's soft enough he can win. I think he probably gets a nice mid-pack trip here. I don't think he's a great bet at 7-2. I'll say that. And I do think that probably is about what he goes off at. But, in a pick 5, even if I do think he's somewhat of an underlay, I'll probably be using him and Mufasa both.
Yeah, and I think with Scotland though too, if you kind of cross a line through all his 2-turn races, he looks a lot better, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, you look back, a couple of races back, he lost to Anchor and then Close the Game Sugar. Close the Game Sugar is one of the top sprinters in the country. I mean, not a big household name, but extremely good sprinter. Then ran into a couple of other half decent horses, Extra Anejo, Raise a Cane. 2 back, he beat Surveillance, who's won multiple grade stakes, at the fairgrounds, and then again at I forget where else he won at, somewhere recently. And then last time beats a half decent horse in Accretive, trained by Chad Brown. So I mean, he's going the right direction. He likes 1 turn. I mean, you got to read in between the lines to get to the horse a bit, and that's not something I like to do at a horse that's 7-2.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a legitimate case.
Sorry, Mark, you were saying something.
I was gonna say, anybody give the 1 horse 7s 11 any look? That horse that should kind of sit right behind somebody like Dean Delivers. Horse has got 4 wins going this trip. So, if Dean Delivers is a little bit short, kind of as that one that should give Kendrick first run, right? Bit of a price. I realize the recent form isn't anything that blows you away. Beating up when you're beating up on horses at Timonium or something. But the fig in that last out race came back 122 on time for him, which is the
It's a
second
shit fig.
fastest. You think it's just a garbage fig at Laurel?
Yeah.
That's
I
what
mean,
you're going
that's
for?
that's a massive career top for both 7-Eleven and the second place horse Hurricane J. I mean, unless you're telling me a second place finisher and a $55,000 optional claiming at Laurel would win the Vosburg easily, I think it's a bad fig.
Yeah, cool. No, I thought it was a somewhat interesting, player in a horse that's going to get ignored on the board and somewhat of an interesting price. That was more my take than
Yeah, I mean, that was maybe a little aggressive because you're going to get probably 15-1 on this horse. And in the event that it's not a bad fig and both horses happen to freak, you're getting a fantastic price. And what is a soft race, and like I said, I hate everybody. So yeah, I don't hate that opinion, Mark. I don't believe in the figure, but at some point, even if I don't believe it, it's worth gambling on.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at this last race here at Aqueduct before we move on to Santa Anita. The Pilgrim, Grade 2, mile and 16th for 2-year-olds. Caleb, I know you absolutely love this race because you just have a bunch of lightly raced turf routers at 2. My goodness. Your morning line favorite is the 4 Zulu Kingdom here for Chad Brown. 2 for 2 so far to start off his career. Won the with anticipation by a neck. And I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time getting around Zulu Kingdom in this spot just because of the fact that you just have a bunch of very, very lightly raced horses that are going to need to take a step forward. You look at a horse like 3 Without Caution who ran that with anticipation and finished 8 lengths back. Everyone else is either a maiden or broke their maiden last time out. And I don't know. I have a hard time looking elsewhere. I do think it's a little interesting that Chad Brown calls Joel Rosario for this when Irad's in town. I mean, I know Irad's ridden the one Noble Confessor the last 2 times, but I don't know. That was kind of the only thing that really stuck out to me is this one live? Although his 2, I know his 2 starts were on dirt, but Todd first time turf isn't exactly, and first time routing or first time turf, specifically second time route race, not exactly great Todd figs. I mean, 15% first time in the grass, right? Any trainer would take that, but for Todd, who wins at about 20%, that's technically a kind of a negative move. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm just reading too much into the jockey moves there, but I mean, at least on paper, Zulu Kingdom looks like he's going to be tough in here.
I'll go because I can be quick. I agree with you. And these are favorites I normally want to play against, but the fact that this horse did win at first asking in France, Chad came, brought him here, put him straight in the stakes at Saratoga, won it by a neck, but it showed a lot of, grit there and it just much the fastest. I don't put a lot of stock in 2-year-old speed figs, but this horse is head and shoulders above the rest on class, on speed, on, versatility. Hard to find anything to knock and hard for me to make an argument as to why another horse is going to jump up enough to beat Zulu Kingdom. So the only thing I'd be playing against is the fact that I don't want to take even money or 4 to 5 on this horse that's this lightly raced, in which case I'd probably have to buy the race because I can't really make a case for, there's no low speed angle. There's no bad trip or trouble. I mean, there's no other angle I could find that Zulu Kingdom. Oh my God, Zulu Alpha. Zulu Kingdom doesn't win this race. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk anybody off Zulu Kingdom. If you like the horse, you like the horse. 2 for 2, everything's there to like. The problem is going to be the price. This horse is going to go off at 3 to 5 or something stupidly short like that because of all the connections and all the angles and everything else. The only other horse I did think was kind of interesting was Without Caution, who Josh had really quickly mentioned. Caleb said there's no bad trips. He apparently didn't watch the last race out of Without Caution. Horse completely bobbled the break, got shuffled way back, and then Manny went complete brain dead, tried to rush the horse up on the outside down the backstretch, and then the horse folded really badly late. Still came back to run a decent figure with an absolutely just abysmal trip. And you know, I think this is the kind of horse you draw a line through with anticipation, and you play this kind of horse back in this spot. Now, can Without Caution beat Zulu Kingdom? I don't know. Probably not, but you're going to get, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 times the price. So, you know, I think that's the kind of spot that if you're going to take a chance, it's an interesting one to take. Manny's on another horse. Yes, he's on the other Chad, but I would imagine after that ride, you know, Sherry didn't really want to put him back up. You're getting Kendrick, who's been as good as anybody else, and Kendrick is actually rides the turf downstate very, very well. I would expect a much better trip, and I would expect a much better performance out of Without Caution here. Can he turn the tide on? You know, can he beat Zulu Kingdom? I don't know, but he's the interesting horse at a bit of a price that I'd be willing to take a shot at.
All right. Well, why don't we switch on over to Santa Anita? You know, I actually had to Google what the hell the California Crown was.
I did too. Is it? Did they rename it recently or something?
Yeah, it was the Awesome Again.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was the Awesome Again, and I think originally, I don't know, I had read up a little bit about it because I think they were talking about, you know, making it for 3-year-olds, but they kept it, I think, for 4-year-olds. I don't know. It was interesting. I read up a little bit about it, but you know, nothing wrong with having another you know, big day out in California. You know, they could definitely use it, and you know, there's a couple of things I do want to mention. Um, One, apparently there's a 2-day pick six. I don't know where the heck that's coming from. Two, there's an all stakes pick five that's $1 minimum.
So you do know that Santa Anita changed their pick six rules this year, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not jackpot.
There's no more jackpot. It's a
Yeah.
dollar base, and yeah, conventional pick six, which is good on them. I mean, good on them.
Fortnite is fun, saying shame on them for renaming. Awesome Again should be in the Hall of Fame.
He's right. He's right. I mean, they can name it the race whatever they want. He should be in the Hall of Fame though.
But so one thing I do, you know, I do have to shout out Santa Anita for doing. Obviously, they closed Golden Gate Fields, which sucks. You know, we hate seeing tracks getting closed down. And you know, I know Caleb and I basically played every single golden hour that existed. Mark, I know you played it a bunch as well. But it's just the dollar base pick four is just such a good bet. The base is just as higher enough that people, you know, if they want to spread, they have to pay for it, and it just inflates the pool that much more. And if they're wrong, you know, you get a bit of an overlay in there, and that late double as well, the $5 base was just really great. So in order to kind of replace it, they added a late pick three. That's a $3 base. It looks like here, and they lowered the takeout on that one. So it's, I believe it's 15%. I could be wrong. I want to say the normal like pick three takeout is atrocious, like 24% or something, like most tracks. So it's a low takeout pick three, and then it's a low takeout double. In the last 3 races and the last 2 races, let me check the PPs, see if they have it listed on here. Yeah, the late double is a $5 base, and then the late pick three is a $3 base. So kind of trying to replace those lost bets. And you know, I think raising those minimums is actually better for the casual bettor I know people might disagree because, oh, you have to pay more and do all this stuff, but I think it makes you better, it makes you make tougher decisions. And when you hit, you get paid out. Unlike when you play a 50 cent or God forbid a 20 cent pick three and you hit and you get nothing back. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. And I know I wouldn't mind if like even win bet minimums went up to $5, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just being I'm being crazy,
No,
but
no, I think you're spot on. Higher base bets with lower takeout is what we need more of in the sport. It's more player friendly. It's less friendly to cause and to offshores who are getting rebate shops and those types of lots. It's a fairer playing field. It's a better playing field for everybody. And yeah, I definitely applaud them for putting these kind of wagers out. Also, it looks like they brought back the late all turf pick three, which is also a very nice wager as well. If you're a turf person, I think one nice thing that I know Keeneland brought that wager out, and one great thing about it was turf races tend to have more horses. They tend to have bigger fields. So if you add more horses, you add more of that calamity factor. You drive up payouts, and you have to be a little sharper, And I think people are like, oh geez, I love these 20-cent base bets because I can go 6 wide in every leg. It's like, well, what's the point? Like, is that where you really want? Do you want to be profitable, or do you just want to throw darts? Like, I think it forces you to be a little sharper, and that's good for the betting public at large. So
Yes, high min's good, low takeout good. I agree.
all right. Caleb wants to get on the handicapping. All right, we got the John Henry Turf Championship here, Grade 2. We're going to be going a mile and a quarter on the turf. They do start slightly down the hill here, but Mark. Mark, as soon as we get on, Mark's like, Josh, you and I are going to be in the same 30-1 horse, and I'm like, Mark, what are you talking about? And then I looked at this race. I'm like, oh, I kind of like Cabo Spirit. And he's like, exactly. So I do. I have Cabo Spirit as an A, and I I don't know. I think Mark and Caleb, you guys kind of do this sometimes too, where like you might see like a long price, and maybe in true odds, or maybe in the true way that you think that the horse's chances are, he's probably like a B or a C type, but you kind of like pay up to make him an A, just in case you're right, because it just like kind of is kind of doing the opposite, right? Like, hey, like the times I'm right on this 30-1 horse, like I want to be live to as many horses as possible.
Yep.
And so that's kind of why I have Cabo Spirit as an A. I don't think he's the most likely winner. I do think that he's got a pace advantage in this race. And I mean, he hasn't won. I don't even remember the last time he won. It's probably been 2 years since he's won. But when he was
October
going,
of 2022.
yeah, when he was going, I thought he was a pretty decent horse. Now, obviously, he's 5 now, so he's not over the hill. But you would have thought that you would have seen, maybe in a couple other wins since then. But I do think he's got a bit of a pace advantage in this race. I respect the heck out of Masterpiece. I do think that he's kind of a weird horse in that I kind of feel like he gets lost in this, like in these kind of weird distances. I think he might be a little bit better shorter, going like the mile and 1/8. But I mean, he does have, he won the Red Smith going a mile and 3/8. But or maybe he just likes Aqueduct. I don't know. He's just kind of been a weird horse, and I feel like he's probably the best horse in this race. But I mean, I think his best races are definitely better than Gold Phoenix, who I've never really been a huge fan of or really impressed by. And obviously he's proved me wrong 2 in the last 3 races. But the horse I'm kind of going back to the well on here is the 5 Dicey Mochara is kind of my top pick. And I just think that, I think he's run pretty well the last 2 times. I think he's kind of rounding into his top form here. And I just think that, if you kind of look at that last race, he ended up kind of getting on the lead, and there wasn't much pace in that race. I don't know necessarily how much he wants to be right on the lead, but when you kind of look at his last win, he sat just off, and I do think that he probably would prefer to have a target, and he is going to have a target in front of him, I think, in the one Cabo Spirit. So I think this is the case of what we talked about a previous turf race. I think Cabo Spirit goes out there on the front end. I think Dicey Mochara sits just behind him, and I kind of feel like one of those two. I like the chances of one of those two to win the race. I think Dicey Mochara is going to get first run on the one if he starts tiring, and I'm just going to use the 1 and the 5 here. Caleb, where did you land?
I feel like pretty similar about this race as I did about the Vosburg, actually, that we just talked about. And there's just a lot of horses in here that I'm just kind of sick of. Like Masterpiece, Dicey Mochara, Rock Emperor. How are you still racing? I mean, like Gold Phoenix, there goes Harvard, Balmakoff. I'm sick of these horses. I mean, it's the older turf horse division, except West Coast version, where they race against each other all the time. They take turns beating each other. And, I'm just sick of them. So for me, this race was fairly easy, but not because I have high confidence, but rather just because, I'm sick of all the same faces. And I'll take a shot with, the quote unquote new shooter, the number 3, Divine Propos. This is a horse that's, less than a length from being 3 for 3 in his 3 domestic starts here. Does have a win over at Santa Anita, going 1 mile and a quarter. That was off of a huge layoff. He dusted that field pretty comfortably. This is his trip. I mean, this horse clearly stays this distance. It's what he likes to do. That 1.1 miles at Del Mar, probably just a touch sharper than he really wants to do. He also had a bit of a wide trip that day, but then came back to his winning ways next out at Del Mar when stretched back out to 1 3/8 miles. So he likes the track, likes the trip. I mean, these are extremely strong connections for the turf. I just think he's kind of the now horse, whereas other horses are kind of past their prime. I mean, I'd rather take a shot on Divine Propos, pairing or repeating, than trying to guess which one of Masterpiece, Gold Phoenix, Dicey Mochara is going to show up with their A game, which may or may not win this. But for me, it's Divine Propos, probably as a near single for me. I do respect Cabo Spirit for the same angle enough as you and Mark both. I don't think he wants to go this far. I don't think he's this good. But at 30-1, I mean, potentially controlling speed, he'll be on a ticket or two of mine just in case.
Yeah, I very much agree with what both of you said. This feels like the who beats up on who kind of division. There's a lot of horses that either hate this trip, haven't won in forever, or they just don't love Santa Anita. And my thought is, Santa Anita, I want horses, especially on the turf, that are going to be more forwardly placed. That's kind of where you want to be here. And a lot of the shorter prices horses are coming from well out of it, and it's not like there's a crazy amount of pace in this race either. It feels like a fairly pedestrian pace. So, I think somebody like Cabo Spirit to wire, super interesting. I guess you're talking about horses like, and I don't even know, is Dicey Mochara the favorite in here? Dicey Mochara is 4 for 25 lifetime at 4-1, or you can get Cabo Spirit, who's 4 for 26 lifetime at 30-1. And I realize it's a bit of a false equivalency, but there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of value there. And to what Josh said earlier, I think if you find a price that you really like, there are some times where you say, geez, this horse isn't an A type. I think Cabo Spirit's maybe your 5th or 6th most likely winner in here, but the value that you're going to get if he does win very much outstrips his, because of his odds. It makes it a value proposition to move that kind of horse up to an A. The other horse that I was kind of interested in was There Goes Harvard, the 10. He's 2 for 6 on turf, primarily has been campaigned on dirt. A horse, he doesn't have a win going this trip on turf, but, I want horses that are going to be a little bit more forwardly placed. I like seeing Johnny V take this mount. Johnny V does really well on these McCarthy horses. I think he's the other one that it's going to be a little bit more forwardly placed in what's somewhat of a paceless Paceless Affair, and the other horse I kind of, if I really have to squint, I could get to somebody like a Gold Phoenix the 9, who has been in some pretty good form, but again, you sort of run into this thing where these horses just kind of all take turns beating up on each other. There's no new shooter that's super interesting. There's no sort of fresh face, and so if I don't go, I'd have to go so deep in here to feel like I had the coverage I need, that I'm okay being a little cute with horses like the 1.
Yeah, honestly, of the horses that beat up on each other, um, yeah, obviously Dicey Mochara, I think, I like in the spot, but I would definitely, I think Balnikov, just with the jock switch with Flavian coming in town to ride. Um, I mean, Flavian just dummies everybody here, so I think that might be enough of an upgrade that maybe that makes a difference in the last race where he finished third by a neck. So he might be one that maybe you can use. But yeah, I think Caleb kind of mentioned it. Like this was kind of a tough race um, with all the horses that kind of just beat up on each other and not really standing out.
My thing with Balnikov is you're taking a horse that's going to be probably your second or third choice, at who's over 8 at Santa Anita. So like and also doesn't seem like he wants to go this far. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's a little older and he finally has, but that's. I don't know. There's a lot of horses like that in this field where it's like, oh God, there's things I just hate about you, but then you realize that it's every horse in the field that you have something you're against. So it's a really tough race. I mean, great betting race, but just really tough one to really get excited about betting anybody.
I feel like a great betting race is when you have a strong opinion in. So that's not,
Exactly. I mean, great just on the field size is going to create value kind of a race, right?
yeah. All right, race 8, the Eddie D, grade 2, 6.5 furlongs. You're going down the hill, and there's one thing I love is getting a down the hill race where the one horse is your second choice. Where's the takeout reducer button when I need it? Um, but I didn't get too creative here. I did land on the favorite here in the 11 Big Invasion. Um, my only concern is, and I don't know if this is still true, but I kind of feel like um, these horses going down the hill, tend to maybe want a little bit more kind of distance. Now, Big Invasion's been a turf sprinter basically his entire career. I mean, you look at the pedigree, and in a mile should definitely not be a problem. You have, Declaration of War on top, and you got Curlin on the bottom. So it's just one of those things that they just haven't done. So I don't know. I'm not too worried maybe about the distance, and obviously the outside draw I think is always good. So I like Big Invasion. The other horse I am going to use is I probably going to be your third or fourth choice, and that's a 2 First Piece. I have him as a B in here, and he's one that Mike Smith has ridden basically the last 2 years, so he obviously doesn't run that often, but has at least one win. I think he's got 2 wins actually going down the hill, a couple of seconds, and just I think seems to really really like this course. And is coming in with a mile win in that restricted stakes race back in July at Del Mar. The doors kind of fell off in the Del Mar mile, where I think he kind of um, came up against maybe a field that was too tough for him there. So maybe coming in back to back grade 2s, maybe this is still too deep of waters, but speed's always pretty dangerous here going down the hill, and is basically the only way you can win from the inside. So I think if he can get down the hill, he can use his tactical speed. I think First Piece is in here with a chance, but Big Invasion is my clear number 1 shot, and then I like First Piece. Mark, what did you land?
Yeah, no, I landed on the same two horses you did, Josh. But I think there's a couple things that give me a little bit of pause in here. And with Big Invasion, I think that the real thing is Christophe Clement's barn right now is could not be colder. He's like 1 for 34 to start the Belmont or Aqueduct meet, and to end the Saratoga meet, he was also extremely cold. So I like Big Invasion. I think Big Invasion makes all the sense in the world. It's just I don't know what's going on with Clement's barn, and he's not. Clement can be a little bit streaky, but not this consistently for this long. So that does give me a little bit of pause. You have horses in here like First Piece, the two. Again, Mike Smith is done very well with this horse. When he brings his best stuff, he's very, very dangerous. Going to be a bit forwardly placed, which I do like going down the hill. But again, a horse that is 4 for 14 lifetime and doesn't necessarily love to win. So there are two prices in here that I think I want to use quite a bit of, and they're both kind of horse for course angles, and that's the 6 horse Air Force Red and the 9 horse Fast Buck. Fast Buck is 4 for 7 at Santa Anita. Air Force Red is 5 of 14. But Air Force Red, has done very well with this 6.5 furlong down the hill trip. Whereas Fast Buck has also done 1 for 3 going down the hill. Both are kind of these sort of horse for course angles. Both of them are horses that have a lot of speed, drawn a little bit outside, which seems to be what works well on this outside turf course. So I thought those were horses that if you thought there was some question marks with a horse like Big Invasion or a horse like First Piece, those were the two that at a little bit of prices were kind of super interesting for me, just given they seem to really enjoy Santa Anita and they seem to really enjoy this down the hill trip.
Yeah, this is a race that I am very willing to take on the favorite. I think Big Invasion is very beatable in here. I'm not going to be really using him probably on any of my tickets. I do think that it's mostly just a price play. I don't necessarily think that he can't win. I mean, that would be a little extreme. But looking at the figures that he runs, he's not really any faster than anybody else. I mean, you have to go way back to his 2023 Breeders' Cup form to find a number that would really make him worth being 3-1 in this field. And we haven't seen that. I mean, yeah, he has been slowly maybe putting it together in the last couple of starts, but the numbers still haven't come back all that fast. And that's coming from somebody who was actually on him that day in the Harvey pack. So I just think he's a horse that I would like to beat in here, especially having only gone down the hill once and running a mediocre third. I just think he's one that I'd be willing to take on. There's a lot of prices in here that I do like. I mean, some of them we've talked about. I mean, I like, First Piece along with Josh. I agree with Mark about Air Force Red, who I fear could be a pace casualty, but I do like the horse in here as well, especially if you're going to give me 10-1, which I think is a bit of a bad line there. Johnny Padre seems like he's going to get, enough pace to run at. So he's kind of the closer, I think, that most inherits the best trip in here. It is tough to work out a trip from the rail going down the hill, especially for a horse like this. But you have one of the best in the business up with Rispoli. So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of I'm going to spread this race without any strong opinions because I'm trying to get around Big Invasion. I don't even think that Johnny Padres is like a great second choice either. I'd be easily willing to take him on. I mean, I tend to downgrade the inner post a little bit more in these down the hill races. So instead, I'll talk briefly about two long shots that I kind of liked a bit. The first is the number 5, King of Godsford. This is a horse that does very well sprinting and has done not quite as well going long. He now gets back to going around one turn. He's 2 for 2 going down the hill at Santa Anita, albeit against weaker, but nevertheless, 2 for 2. And then, going a mile at Del Mar, just, probably didn't get the right trip that day. I mean, had some trouble, had to steady off of heels, didn't get a clean run. And then last time he ran into Stay Hot, who's probably the best California turf miler. So, at least, as a 3-year-old anyway, I mean, maybe Dujour and a few others may have something to say about that, a little bit later. But as a 3-year-old anyway, I think, Stay Hot's very good, especially for a Calbred. So I don't really think there's much shame in that. Going a distance, it's probably a bit too long. Getting back to down the hill, I think at 15-1, I mean, King of Gosford is pretty interesting. The other horse I liked at a price was the number 8, Step Forward. This one, I would need better than the 6-1 morning line, but I really think you get better. Because like I said, I think Air Force Red's going to take some money. I think Big Invasion arguably takes even more money than 3-1. So I think you get better than 6-1 on Step Forward. Basically, he ran a really good race 3 back at Saratoga, where he, got steadied real bad out of the gate and essentially dropped out of the screen and made up an absurd amount of ground while honestly never really being set down. I mean, that was mostly with him being handridden throughout most of the race. Made up 16 lengths in a turf sprint, losing to a horse who won wire to wire in Super Quest. So against the flow of the race and with that kind of a trip, I mean, I think it showed, somewhat of a new dimension here that the horse is able to pass others. And I think he just hasn't really been in the right spots ever since then. I mean, the Troy gets washed off the turf. Clearly, he's not as effective on the dirt as he is the turf. And then he goes to Kentucky Downs, which a lot of horses just, don't handle sometimes. And, he ends up getting a pretty wide trip over a course that was favoring the inside paths, and he just kind of fades out of his frame. But he's one that I would need probably more like 12-1, but I actually think you very well might get that. He's the other one that I found that could be a little bit sneaky, based on some bad trips and some dirty form.
All right, let's move on to race 9, the California Crown. Going 1 mile and an eighth here on the dirt. Your morning line favorite is going to be the 3 National Treasure. Really good horse. Has won, a lot of big races, won the Met Mile this year. But I'm actually I'm be against National Treasure in this race. But Mark, I'm interested to see where you went. So I'll let you go first. Where did you land here?
I love the setup with you're going to be against National Treasure, but then toss it over to me because I want no one that's not named National Treasure in this race. I think National Treasure caught an off track of the Whitney and just clearly didn't handle it. His Met Mile was a very, very, very nice race. You're in the home of Bob Baffert in Bob's backyard, and I just don't see how anybody else can go with him early, and he's tested over this distance as well. I guess the biggest argument against National Treasure is does he just not like Santa Anita because he's never really won here. And again, he's not a horse that wins a ton, but I just think he just kind of towers over this field. His best, he's got 2 or 3 races faster, honestly, maybe even more than that now that I'm looking. 1, 2, 3 or 4 races faster than anything anybody else has run on this field. I just think he's better than these by quite a lot, and I think it's more a sign, not necessarily he's necessarily an amazingly talented or a phenomenal horse or anything. I just think it's a matter of who showed up in this field, and he's better than what's going on the West Coast right now in this division. I don't have to get too creative.
Josh, in my heart of hearts, I know that National Treasure is a rat. I know it. I just know it. And I knew it, and I was suckered into the Whitney, and I bet him, and I got that kind of a performance. And I knew better, so not again, National Treasure. You're not getting me again. You fooled me once. And you can blame it off track, and maybe that's a legit excuse. But I really just think he's not that good. And I will die on that hill that he's never been that good. He's just been the only horse from that era that continues to run. The Arcangelo, Disarm, Tappet Trice, Forte, Mage, they're all not any good. He was just, the one that continues to race where most of them have disappeared. So I don't think he's any good. I know it's a bad field, but I'm not convinced. He was supposed to get loose last time in the Whitney and somehow didn't even get the lead. He can beat me. I don't need him. I'm going to go with the other Baffert. Give me Muth, who I think has a lot more upside. Actually wins at Santa Anita, actually wins in general for that matter. Clearly was a prep race last time that, he did just enough. And I think Muth is the now horse, and I will be basically singling him.
I am very, very excited to single National Treasure in the Breeders' Cup Turf or in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. I will probably, single him in everything in that race. But I don't know. I think, You look at his races over a mile, and the only races he's won have been absolutely candy ass trips. And I just don't think, yeah, I just think that Muth, I don't think we've seen the best out of him yet, or at least I think that he's got room to go. You know what I mean? Like he could still improve. Obviously, he's a late 3 year old. He kind of ran that shared belief, and I mean, just won absolutely.
Uh
Was it
oh.
me?
Hotel. No, it's not you. It's Josh. Hotel Wi-Fi did him in.
Well,
So
the
let me get this
15 minutes
straight,
of internet
Caleb.
he paid for.
Yeah, he'll get back. So let me get this straight, Caleb. You're gonna toss the favorite in a pick five. I'm just curious balls.
And I'm going to single the one. So that's like a double negative, though. So it's actually a positive.
So we're going for the double negative angle here.
Yes.
Ooh.
But you know what that means, right? The other Baffert beats us all in Newgate.
Dude, if Newgate wins this freaking race, like, oh my god, I didn't realize Newgate was still in training. Like, I thought Newgate retired or something. Since last March, he just kind of fell off a cliff and did. Hey, look, who's
What
back.
just happened? What just happened?
Um,
You DC'd and then we got kicked out somehow.
Somehow,
Interesting. So
yeah.
weird. Um, look at this is why I hate hotel Wi-Fi. Right? I connect to hotel Wi-Fi. You guys want to know why I got disconnected? It has nothing to do with the Wi-Fi being bad. They needed me to log in
Reauthenticate.
again, re-authenticate. Like, dude, give me a freaking break. So sorry about that, guys. Anyways, so as I was talking about Muth when Mark started trashing my name, um, I just think that of the horses not named of the horses in here, I think we still haven't seen his best. Um, I'm sure he's going to win a fraud of a race like the Malibu at the end of the year and get another Grade One win. That should not be a Grade One. But I don't know. I think Muth, assuming he stays in training, because God only knows what owners are doing with their horses now and retiring them after having less than stellar careers. But I think he's going to be a force to reckon with in the Classic Division next year. Yeah, Muth is my top pick. The other horse I'm going to use in this race is the 6, Senor Buscador. And I don't know if I'm going back to that Saudi Cup win, but or that San Diego handicap, but I don't know. He has one race a year where he just kind of shows up and just runs just an absolute hole in the wind. Um, and I think if anything funny does happen with the pace in this race, I think Senor Buscador is the most accomplished of kind of the off the pace horses here. Looking at the pace scenario, I mean, I don't really see Muth and National Treasure like button heads the whole way down. So, and God only knows what the hell Newgate's going to do. But yeah, I just think if something funky does happen, um, I think Senor Buscador is kind of the other horse in here that I kind of like. I mean, he's been able to close into some slow paces as well. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be blazing fast. I think the Pat O'Brien was a little sharp for him. I do think that the 2 turns, the mile and the eighth distance seems to be kind of what he wants to run, mile and eighth, mile and 16th. So, and honestly, he's kind of been a pretty consistent horse. Ran second in the Pacific Classic, ran second in the Cigar Mile, won the Saudi Cup, ran fine in the Dubai World Cup. A solid third, beating some other solid horses in that race. And then that Pat O'Brien was definitely kind of a prep. So I don't know. I like Senor Buscador here a little bit.
Anybody give the 2 horse? I don't even know how you say the name. Sub Senator a look. I thought that was the other horse in here that I haven't listed as a B.
Time
After
form,
low to
time
A.
form have a big fig on that last race. Is that why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Time for him kind of does.
Brisnet does
Yeah.
too. But
Yep.
Brisnet, when I see Brisnet figure that's like that, I just assume it's fake. Um, Caleb, you as the judge, jury, and executioner of fake figs, can we get a ruling?
That looks like the kind of race that would be a hard race to make a figure for, considering you had the top two finishers that were 17 lengths clear of the rest of the field. So, I mean, Miracolo exited that race. He had a 123 in that race. He exited to return back to run a 108, but it was an eighth place finish with the 108 going a mile and a quarter. I mean, he ran poorly. That's not to say the figure was bad necessarily. So it might be a touch too fast. My gut would say it's not dramatically wrong. It might be a few points too quick, but I don't think it's that far off.
Yeah, my third thought was if you don't like National Treasure, Sub Senator, if you think National Treasure's short, or I understand where Caleb's coming from. I think National Treasure's a rat. I don't say that very often, but I completely agree with it. It's just sometimes rats win. So I don't know. But I thought
If
Sub
they
Senator
didn't,
was
Caleb would win every pick five.
That's so true.
no. If favorites didn't occasionally win, Caleb would win every pick five.
I saw Fortnite is Fun has some very, very strong opinions on the renaming of Awesome again.
He's not wrong. He is.
I
not
thought
wrong.
that this was the claiming crown when they call it the California crown. I was like, oh, they just
Isn't the
renamed the
claiming
claiming
crown at
crown.
Gulfstream?
I thought they move it, but maybe.
No, it's always a Gulfstream. That's a
Okay,
Gulfstream
but
thing.
like, I thought it was like Calbred Day or something. I did not realize that they rename it the Awesome again, so I looked it up. I was wondering why they're making such a big deal about it. So that I think, like he was saying, they didn't market it right.
No, completely agree. No, I thought the same thing he did. You were talking about this cow crown, and I was like,
I thought the exact same thing too.
I thought the same thing. I thought they created a claiming crown at Santa Anita, and I was like, but why are these graded stakes? And then,
Yeah. But I guess to wrap up the race quickly, I do think Sub Sanador is interesting, Mark. He's the second horse I would use. Josh, Senior Buscador, I want him next time. I don't think he gets the pace to run out here.
Nope.
And I do think, he's a horse that needs a setup. The last race was obviously a prep, but I think that I want him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, maybe if that's where he goes, or, maybe he goes to that, the Lucas Classic or something instead. But I want him next time. I don't think this is the spot for him.
But Todd Fincher's also on record saying he doesn't think he gets the setup here.
Which means he does. So bet the house. All right, race 10, the City of Hope Mile. We're going to be going a mile, presented by My Racehorse, where you can also own a piece of the winner of the Kentucky Derby and not get any of the money from Stud. So you got 9 horses in here. Your morning line favorite is the 3 Johannes at 4 to 5. Let's. I'm gonna get a check here. Caleb, are you using Johannes?
Probably a single. Yeah, probably a single. 4 to 5 is a gross price, but he's just really good.
I'm going to use him defensively, so that tells you all you need to know.
Oh boy,
that's the grossest thing I've heard all night.
Well, you guys already know where I'm going, so.
Where's the E8? Where's the E8? Find it.
Where's the 8?
Oh, you're going to do Jordan. Never mind.
Yeah.
You are? You're not going to use Paxel Wallop? I figured you'd be all over Paxel Wallop.
Dude, I see Dujour. I have to bet him.
Oh, God.
I think I still remember when he won that race on Kentucky Derby Day. I felt so smart getting such a good price on the Bob back for Turf Force, but no, I think I looked at Paxel Wallop. Obviously, kind of seems to be a lone speed situation here. Gets Mike Smith aboard, and Mike Smith gets him out of the gate clean. And as long as Mike Smith doesn't have to think, he's either got the one turn closer or either the one run closer, or he's got the speed horse. He tends to give a good ride. But I don't know. I just think that this is really the cheapest of cheap speeds. Johannes makes a ton of sense. Obviously, he's beaten du jour the last couple times. He's beaten horses that we talked about in the Ed Reed, and and I think he did that going a distance that's not his best. I really think that this mile distance seems to be hit him right square in between the eyes. So, yeah, I think Johannes can be tough. I'll use a bit of du jour too, just because if he wins and I don't have him, I don't need another Jakarta situation on my hands. So I'm just using those two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using Johannes as one of my three in here. I don't know how I want to use him. Like you said, the 4 to 5 is disgusting. He's really good, but he doesn't also tower on paper over anybody in this race. Just kind of been getting it done lately. So I thought Pax Wallop was interesting, kind of lone speed in here. Getting back to Santa Anita, if speed is really good, obviously watch the undercard races. But if speed's really good, he could be a very interesting player here, trying to steal it on the front end for Mike Smith. And the other horse I think is probably my top pick given morning line prices is the 6-horse Tricari. The East Coast Invader, who's been in really good form as well as of late. And I'm assuming this is why Johnny V is shipping into town, is for this mount, for a horse he's been really, really good on. So, Tricari's last couple fit very, very well with Johannes. So I think I think that the line is kind of bad on Johannes, and we'll see what you actually get come post time if Tricari takes money off it. But again, I don't have anything creative or super out of the box. I just think Johannes is that 4 to 5 is a terrible line.
Yeah, I don't know that that's a terrible line, but I don't think
it's terrible. Yeah,
he might go off 4 to 5. I don't think it's a bad line in that regard, but I do think. Is he truly 4 to 5 to win this race? I don't know. That's a tougher argument for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I will probably single him just because I struggle to use multiple horses when the one I like is 4 to 5. I feel like you kill your own equity by spreading too deep there. And, the other horses that I'd probably want to use, somewhat of are horses like Pax Wallop, from the lone speed angle. Tricari, I mean, he's never been fast enough to win, yet always wins. He finally ran kind of like Johannes, actually. So finally ran a fig that's, fast enough to win this race last time, but it is a colonial fig, so whatever that's worth. 8 to 1, I think you could use him, but I wouldn't, I'm not sure if you get quite that.
Is this sort of like colonials in the Mid-Atlantic there for all figs are suspect out of the Mid-Atlantic?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're out there, timing it with a gym coach and a stopwatch, so.
All right. So what are you guys plans for the weekend?
We're getting fall foliage season, so it'll be tourist fodder right and left around here. Probably gonna play a couple rounds of disc golf, and I don't know. There's a couple of decent looking. We'll have to see how they actually card them out. I'd like to get into BCBC and not pay full price, so might take a couple stabs at some qualifiers, and but I don't want to play Laurel on a qualifier, which is what the one tomorrow is. So, Laurel's not my jam. So, hoping that a couple of them come up and are a little more favorable track selection wise. So, take a couple shots there, maybe. We'll see. But again, it's that time of year where you try to get a soft break before Breeders' Cup. You try to not stress yourselves out, because the 2 weeks of Breeders' Cup, or the 2 week lead in, at least for myself, and I know for you guys as well, is you're doing a lot. You're getting dragged into a lot of, hey, can you hop on my podcast, or can you hop on my show, or whatever? And you put a lot of effort into watching replays and doing handicapping and that kind of thing. So Breeders' Cup. I mean, some of us do, Josh, but some of us also like to, we have goals. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, we like to win things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I get more joy out of getting one race right the whole day that you guys just completely see differently than actually winning money. So,
moral wins are still wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're just the king of Schadenfreude then.
Oh, absolutely. What about you, Caleb?
I got a busy weekend with some kind of just running some errands around here. I mean, nothing too exciting. I have a house under contract, so I got an inspection I got to take care of over the weekend. So I'll be checking some of that out. Might try to get out for a hike before it gets too cold. Trying to enjoy some of the Denver hiking scene until the snow rolls in.
The aspens are very pretty right now.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to sit in that traffic, so I'm trying to find a hike that's
Okay.
not going to get crazy busy like it does going out to out towards like Vail and stuff. But
Yeah.
that's on my plan. And then Saturday, like I said, the card at Santa Anita is good, and the Aqueduct card's not bad. So I'll probably play Saturday, and then just take care of some errands and stuff Friday and Sunday.
Nice. And yeah, I'll be traveling back home tomorrow around lunchtime, and then I got a couple things to take care of around the house and some family parties, but I'll definitely be involved in the Santa Anita card. So, and I don't know, I have to decide now whether I want to throw some money at Breeders' Cup betting challenge, because I still don't have a ticket for Breeders' Cup. So I have to figure that out. But yeah, should just be a fun weekend. Obviously, check us out at ontherwronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter. I am at Cherry Drank. Mark is at 2turns. Caleb at Caleb WVU. No drinking champagne this week, but episode of You've Got to Be Shot Tinning Me should be available I don't know, sometime tonight or tomorrow. So check that out. And let's have a good weekend, guys.